Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. I am your host. My name is Tyler. And on today's episode, we have another guest with us who is going to come on and share her style of therapy and kind of how it is that she does that. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and we'll pass it over to her to introduce herself. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia. I am a somatic trauma and anxiety coach, and I focus on helping people heal trauma through energetics, somatics, and shamanic healing.
Perfect. So I guess first and foremost, right, can you identify with us, like, can you share like the pivotal moment that kind of led you to explore your style of healing?
Sure. So I was in my early 40s, and I'm a mom of 4, and I had always been told I was so strong, had numerous traumatic events happen. And at that point, I started to really feel uncomfortable in my body. I started having a lot of anxiety. I started having a lot of depression. And I was like, what the heck is happening to me? And I wound up finding a women's retreat and went to that. And the second day we were there, they had us do a somatic breathwork journey. And I was like, what the hell is this? I know how to breathe, all that stuff. And then laid down, breathed the way that they told me for an hour, and it was life-changing. I cleared probably, I don't even know, 2 decades of trauma out of my body. I felt energetically lighter. I saw visions of my purpose, which was helping people heal and leading retreats, that sort of thing. And I had a spiritual awakening. It was insanely amazing. And then, so for the next year, I was like, this is fantastic. I was like, I don't have to talk to anyone about my trauma. I can just do breath work and do these other somatic practices. And so I did that for a year. And at the year point, I found that I was feeling really fantastic in my body. I had more energy than I probably had had in a really long time. I was feeling really good, but then a lot of the deeper shit that had been buried started coming up. And so somatics are fantastic for clearing things out, layers and layers that have been stuck. But then what it does is it opens up your body to have a bigger capacity to then be able to process the deeper stuff. And so at that point, I knew I didn't want to go back to talk therapy because I personally found talk therapy to be re-traumatizing. And so I wound up learning another somatic practice, which is somatic inner child work. And that was huge. And so I ended up then at that point combining all of the things that moved the needle for me on my healing journey into one program that I now use with clients. And it's been really successful.
So talk therapy is pretty much one of the most popular forms of therapy. I've talked to a few people that have practiced the same kind of therapy that you do. I have a good friend of mine. Her name's LaFawn. She teaches. I did a class with her. It was pretty interesting. But for the people that are listening, right, that don't know, right, because you said, you found it to be more therapeutic for you than regular talk therapy and found that more re-traumatizing. What's the difference? Like, how does it different from traditional talk therapy to your style?
Okay, so specifically when you have trauma is created in the body when the nervous system goes into overwhelm. And so when that happens, it changes the cells, it changes your DNA, and it gets stuck in your body. Basically, if your body doesn't get to do what it wanted to do in that moment, whether it was freeze or fawn or whatever it went into as a trauma response, if your body didn't get to complete what it would have wanted to do in that moment, then it can get stuck. And so there's all of this research now that shows that a single person can carry the trauma of up to 14 past generations because it gets passed down in the cells, and then you're carrying what your ancestors were carrying if you don't heal, right? If somebody doesn't break the cycle and heal. And so when I did talk therapy, it was a lot of talking about the same traumatic event over and over and over again, and I wasn't getting anywhere. So my experience was I liked my therapist, but I dreaded going. I left feeling worse than when I got there, and constantly having to talk about it, I just found to be really re-traumatizing. And a lot of my clients have found the same, that they were like waiting for this breakthrough that just didn't happen. And so with somatics, you're going into the body and focusing on the sensations, the emotions, where that's being stored and how it's being held. So the biggest difference, the way that I like to explain it is like, okay, if you were to do a session with me, the first thing that we do is you're sitting there, your eyes are closed, and we're going to get you into your body. So you're going to, take a few deep breaths. You're going to pay attention to the weight of your body on the couch or the chair. You're going to pay attention to the sensation of your clothes on your body, all of those kinds of things. The air as you're breathing. Is it warm? Is it cool? The rise and fall of your abdomen or your chest as you're breathing. Just starting to really pay attention to those things. And then I would say, okay, so I'm going to have you scan your body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And when I say these limiting beliefs to you, you're going to tell me where you feel this in your body. So the first session that I do with someone, we've gone through and we've figured out their limiting beliefs and a lot of the inner child wounds. So I would say to them, I would be like, Tyler, you're not worthy. Tyler, you're not good enough. Tyler, you're not lovable. Tyler, you have to do everything yourself. And when your eyes are closed and all you're focusing on is your body and your sensations, you're going to feel that hit one place more than another. Some people might feel it in their chest where it's like, ooh, like my heart's heavy. They might feel it in their belly like it's a gut punch. They might notice that like their neck or their shoulder, all of a sudden it's got like this pain in it. And so from that, we focus on that sensation because that's where that's being held. And then it's, okay, so where, what's the earliest memory that you have where you felt this in your body? And this could be because with that limiting belief, it's something they saw their parent think about themselves. It could also be something that they were told, like as a child, like you're not worthy, you're not good enough, whatever it is, no one's going to love you, et cetera, et cetera. And so when we go back into that, they're paying attention to how their body was in that memory. And from there, we're reparenting. So if the parent didn't feel safe in that moment, then we bring in the higher adult version of yourself to come in and be protective of little you in that moment. And your little you can talk to older you, higher version of you. Higher version of you can give you what you needed in that moment. Maybe it was to be told you are loved no matter what. Maybe it's told you don't have to do anything to be worthy, whatever it is. And that's when the emotions usually tend to start to come in. And then little you is getting what they needed in that moment. And that tends to heal it in that moment. And then I would say, okay, so now that sensation that in the beginning got us there, how does that feel now? And 100% of the time, it's shifted in some way. It's lighter. It feels like, it's more open, whatever it is in that moment. And so then we go into, from that space, what's now available to you that wasn't available before. So like they'll start spewing affirmations. I am worthy. I have my own back. I am loved. I am whatever it is. And then whichever one feels the most powerful, that's the one we're going to work on locking in. So then that's what we're integrating. That's what we're doing. What's the smallest action that you could take in the next week to lock that in? For some people, it's like writing it on a post-it and putting it on their bathroom mirror, that they're going to see every day. Some people, it's putting it on their phone. Every time they open their phone, they're going to see it. Some people, it's writing a letter to mom or dad. Not that they're ever going to send it. They may want to send
Right.
it. They may want to burn it. Whatever it is, but it's small. It's the smallest action. It's going to help integrate that in, and it's doable. And they're coming up with it. I'm not telling them what to do. They're creating that
Right.
themselves.
So
So
that that there alone, I mean that there alone is sounds more beneficial than talk therapy alone. Like, because in traditional therapy, it's a lot of, okay, well, do you think this will work? Let's try this. So it's a lot of like suggestives of like try this and let's try this and let's try this. So I mean, right there with what you're describing, if you're given the option of like, you're not really telling them to try anything, they're coming up with the whole, let me try this, that's obviously going to be more healing because that's geared, I mean, that's what you're coming up with. That's going to be more geared towards you. You know what I
it's
mean?
very, what I have found with these types of sessions is that in the moment when they're doing like the reparenting, if mom and dad don't feel safe, if mom or dad does feel safe, then they would go to mom or dad and say, hey, in this moment, this is what I felt, this is what I needed, and this is what happened. And mom or dad would, in that moment tell them what they needed. But in most cases, mom or dad is the one that usually led to the wound, and so, or the limiting belief. And so having their higher self come in is usually more comforting. Um, but what I have found is with these sessions, when they're reparenting, that's usually the most emotional part. But by the end, they're feeling fantastic. They leave sessions feeling really good. And that was my experience with it too, which was why I wanted to learn how to do it, was because I was like, oh, I feel empowered. I feel, like this part of me just got some healing. And it was pretty instant. It was pretty fast. And I wasn't carrying around like, oh my God, like my shoulder always hurts or my neck always hurts. Like it was helping with that stuff. And I found that to be really beneficial. The other thing that I love, love, love is the shamanic healing piece, because the shamans believe that, so regardless of any religion that you believe, this is not tied to that. The shamans are based in, really nature and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that they believe is when you have any dis-ease, past trauma, anything like that, it can lead to your soul breaking off in the moment to try and stay safe. And so one of the people that's like a big proponent of soul retrieval, soul restoration, is a talk therapist who found, as we're working with our clients and we do anything that is related to little you, if you have a lot of trauma, you're usually missing chunks of time,
Mm.
and you may or may not remember before a certain age. And so as a talk therapist, a lot of talk therapists are trying to, oh, they dissociated in this moment. So we're going to dig and find out what that event was that caused it, because that's how we're going to heal it. But that was your body's way of protecting itself. And so sometimes you can dig and dig and dig, and they're not coming up with anything because it's physically not there.
Right.
So the shamans believe that it broke off to stay safe, and the piece that broke off is the good stuff. It's your light, it's your worth, it's your power, it's your joy. And the things that stayed were the shame, the grief, the pain, all of those things. So when you do a shamanic soul restoration or soul retrieval, the parts that are ready to come back because now they feel your body is safe can be brought back along with power and these different things. So I had my soul restoration session in March, and I had
Mm-hmm.
been training to do it since January. And so now I've had 6 months of training, and now I'm doing it with clients. And it's been really helpful because it's not traumatic. It's bringing back the good. It's bringing back part of your vital essence, part of your soul. And so you just tend to, if you're somebody who has always felt incomplete or like something's missing, this can bring that back where You don't need multiple sessions. It could be one session is super powerful and can do that for somebody. And so it's the combination of all of that that has helped my clients see the just very fast healing and feeling better almost immediately, and then helping get those lasting results.
What do you think the most physical symptoms, like what do you think that is that you see the most, like
When
from people?
with trauma,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The most physical thing that you see
um,
that's like
it's
common
it's
amongst everybody.
multiple things. One is can be sleep issues, waking up in the middle of the night, not knowing why, but they just can't go back to sleep, or
Oh,
they
that's
have
me
a
all
hard,
day.
time shutting their brain off when they're trying to go to sleep. So then they're like doing anything they can, kind of self-medicating to be able to pass out. So whether that is something like, alcohol or melatonin or, there's so many, CBD, all these different things that people are doing because they can't just go to sleep. That's a big one. Another one would be staying present, whether it's at work or with their loved ones, staying present. They tend to, kind of space out a lot, have a lot of brain fog. It's really hard for them to just be. They can't relax. They really want to relax, but even if they're on vacation, they can't just like sit and look at the ocean. They have to be doing something. They have to be on their phone. They have to be checking in. They can't disconnect. It's like, oh my gosh, if I'm not there all the time, it's going to all fall apart, you know?
I explaining that to people. That's the one that that's the one I most commonly see, and I try to explain to people all the time. Like this is a trauma response. This feeling of like I gotta do something. I gotta be moving. I gotta be working. I gotta stay busy. And I'm like that is a trauma response. But explaining that to people, is always the hardest because they're always like, well, no, 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 no. I just gotta work. I just gotta work. Gotta work. Like that seems to be the most common one in my world that we see the most of.
So, and that ties back to an inner child wound of I have to perform to be loved. I have to
Mm,
perform to be worthy. So if I take a break, oh no, like that might go away. And so I have to go, go, go all the time. I have to be successful. So a lot of the people with trauma are very successful, very high functioning, but once they get that goal, they can't enjoy it. It's automatically like boom, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. It's not like, oh, I can just relax and enjoy that I just got this promotion. I just did really well on this project. No, it's immediately like, okay, got it, boom, next, 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 next. So I see that. That's very common. And then the two other things that I see very often, one is chronic illness because you're just carrying around that stress and trauma in your cells, and until you release it, it's insidious and it's just carrying around this stuff. And so that is a huge, huge one. Usually, chronic illness is huge. And if you have one chronic illness, it's got usually comorbidities, which means you've got multiple ones. And so one just leads to another to another. The other would be addiction. So people are, just trying to self-medicate, trying to feel good in their bodies. And even if you look at COVID, right, which was a worldwide trauma, being
yeah.
stuck in your house and all of that stuff, as soon as people could go out again, then there was a lot of social anxiety and people just wanted to feel better. So then there's this huge boom in, marijuana and all of these different things, and now it's just part of the norm that
Right.
people are doing. And a lot of my clients that I've worked with are to the point where they're like, that's what I was doing, but I found it wasn't beneficial to me and I want to stop. So now I am sober. Like I'm choosing to be sober. I didn't have a problem. I just didn't, I knew that I was using it more than I needed to. And I found that it actually wasn't very beneficial to me. And so I have a lot of
Never
clients
is.
that are just stopping. Like I just want to have a clean body.
Right. So what what tools would you say What help somebody regulate their central nervous system the most?
So, a couple things. One is I have something that I do. It's called the nervous system reset. So, for people who have tried breath work, there's a big difference between 5 minutes of breath work and a breath work journey that's like an hour or more. 5 minutes of breath work, that's going to help calm you down in the moment. It's going to, help in general. But if you're actually wanting to clear stuff out, you would want to do a journey. Now, the benefit of the reset is it kind of teaches you what your system's like as it's starting to get activated, and then you feel it the whole rest of the time calming down, and you're getting completely relaxed. And so that is a shorter, it's like a 40-minute thing that I have versus an hour or more journey. And what I have found is the people that are like, I don't know about a long breathwork journey. I don't know about this. Like, what's this going to do? If you start with the reset, it teaches you somatically, because it's a somatic nervous system reset, somatic breathwork journey. I have found that of all the different types of breathwork journeys, the somatic one was the easiest on my system and also the deepest. And so with the reset, I have found that that's a really good stepping stone for people who are interested in doing deeper work, but they're a little weary of what to do with a breathwork journey. So starting with the reset really teaches them the basics and helps get them really relaxed in their body and paying attention to sensations. And then their next step would be the breathwork journey, where then because they've done the reset, they tend to be able to go deeper and release a lot of stuff with that longer journey. But if I was trying to just teach someone quickly, like what is the fastest thing that you can do to just calm your nervous system in the moment, it would be breathe in through your nose deep into your diaphragm for a count of 3 or 4, and then exhale out of your mouth for twice as long, so 6 or 8. The most important part is the exhale being twice as long as the inhale, and the breathing deep into your belly instead of the chest is very important. Most people don't realize, but the second that you start to get stressed, your breathing shifts.
Right.
And you shift from breathing in and out through your nose deep into your diaphragm to automatically mouth breathing in and out of your chest. And so this is a really good, if you start doing that every day, if you set a timer on your phone that just says breathe for 5 or 10 minutes and you just make yourself breathe that way, it becomes more of a habit, and it has huge health benefits, even if you're only doing it for 5 or 10 minutes a day.
Okay. Interesting. So you're also an intimacy coach.
I was a sex and intimacy coach for 10 years
Okay.
prior to doing trauma. Yeah.
So here in our world, right, intimacy plays a big part with substance abuse because we struggle, like the average addict and alcoholic struggles with that, right? Reconnecting. And obviously that's trauma induced and that's all that fun stuff there. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like what's the most common intimacy issue that you see in your experience?
Um, so it's actually kind of funny because I switched from sex and intimacy into trauma because when I was working with clients,
Hmm.
what I found was the biggest issue was that one of them was having an inner child wound that was never dealt with.
Right.
It was never healed, is now rearing its ugly head, and it's affecting, their sex life. And so it's affecting their communication, how they're showing up for each other, all of these different things. And so instead of just focusing on, sex and intimacy, I was like, when I started healing myself, I was like, oh my gosh, look at the difference that this made in my relationship. What could this do for my clients? So when I switched it from being focusing on the symptom, which was sex and intimacy, versus the root of what
Right.
is this trauma that they're storing, and then that would automatically shift and change that on its own. So that's why I ended up switching. I don't want to say topics, but switching areas of helping people was because I found getting to the root of that other stuff, which actually had nothing to do with sex and nothing to do, it may have things to do with intimacy if they had, some trauma in that regard. But overall, focusing on healing the limiting beliefs and the inner child wounds, that was the biggest thing. But it was showing up in a lot of different ways. It would show up where all of a sudden a partner doesn't really want to be touched. They don't really want to be close. They are not communicating as well. One of the big things that I do with clients is called the 5 survival patterns. It's you can actually get the book. It's called 5 personality Ooh, sorry, my dog just kicked the thing. It's called the 5 personality patterns, and it's by Stephen Kessler. And so he did all this research that shows these personality or survival patterns are created before the age of 7, and there's 5 of them. And so they pop up for each person whenever you are upset or overwhelmed. So what I see when I go out in the world and interact with people is that most people are living in their survival pattern and they're very reactive. And
100%. That's what I mean, I see the same thing over and over again. People get stuck in survival mode constantly,
yes,
especially in our world, like in substance abuse, like, because we have the criminal justice side attached to us too. So most of the people, like in my world, are, I mean, for lack of better terms, everybody's from the prison system. So one big survival skill of just, there's just that constant, you're stuck. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And if you've not been taught the survival patterns, if you don't know how to break them, then it pops up in every relationship, in at work, with your kids, with your partner, it's literally going to show up for you your whole life until you learn how to get control of that. And so the first one is leaving. So you're like checking out, dissociating. As soon as you get upset or overwhelmed, this is what you do. You might actually physically leave the situation. Merging is like people pleasing. Enduring, those are the people who are usually told they're so strong and everybody goes to them for support and they just hold everybody's stuff in and help everybody else. And then all of a sudden, somebody says something small to them and then those people just blow because they can't take it anymore.
That's our whole world. I think as like professionals, the so-called professionals, right? Like anybody who's listening to this that works in the field. I think, like I always tell people, every day at work you relive your own trauma by trying to help other clients, right? Um, which takes us to burnout factor, right? Which
There
you're
has to be an energetic boundary. You have to
correct.
create energetic boundaries so you don't take on other people's shit. Yes.
And your practice really helps with that, like with the burnout factor. At least from everything, I've been reading a lot more. So like I said, I have a friend that practices. You were coming on, and then I kind of talked to you first because we were supposed to do this until you got hit with a hurricane and all that fun stuff.
Tornado, yeah.
Yeah, tornado. Tornado ripped your house apart. Which you seem in high spirits for that happening, right? So obviously your practice is working.
Well, okay, it's actually funny because I did a post yesterday on Facebook and I was like, this is what collapse looks like. And basically was like, I walked out of my house last night and I explained why, but it was like, I run the leaving pattern and my nervous system was overstimulated. My daughter runs the aggressive pattern, which means when she gets upset or overwhelmed, she gets very loud, and it's like a very outward needs control, needs power. So it's
Yeah.
very much this like anger and this energy that comes at you. And so she was upset and mad, and my husband was like trying to talk to her, and then he was getting mad because she was yelling at him. And so I was like, la 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 la, like I'm sitting there like a little kid in the kitchen, like, la, and then I'm like, I can't, I'm gonna freak out. So I got in the car, I drove a block away, I sat there, I cried, I let my system calm down, and then I came back. And at first I was really disappointed with myself because I was like, oh my God, I'm back in my pattern. Like this is what I teach people is how to not be in their pattern and like show up differently. But what I recognized was if I would have stayed, I would have been really reactive. I would have been yelling. I would have been not showing up as my best self. And taking the half an hour I needed to breathe and reboot was better for everybody. And all of the awareness that came with it, like,
Yeah.
okay, I can see what's happening to my body right now. I can notice that my nervous system is literally melting down, and have I have to go. Like, I just have to go. So, yes, no, I don't recommend to people that you just flee situations and not address what's going on. But at the same time, if your system is in a complete meltdown, and you're not going to be able to process, and you're not going to be, when you're in your pattern, you can't process, you can't think clearly, you can't think logically. And so if it's better to take a beat, whether it's to go to another room, whether it's to put some headphones in, whether it's to just go outside for a walk, if that is way better than like continuing an argument and saying a bunch of things you don't mean to your partner. It's better to say, I need to breathe, I need a break, so we can come back and I can show up better for this. And so at
Yeah, I
first I
think
was
that
really
that's important.
disappointed with myself, but then I was like, no, actually, I'm pretty proud of myself. Like, I
Yeah, I
listened to
think
my
that's the
body, I
most
did what I
important
needed to
thing.
do. Yeah.
Like being able to walk away and come back to the situation. Like sometimes you need to take that break. I don't know, like when you sent me those pictures with the big hole in your floor and your roof and the water's flowing through, I would have lost it if that was me.
It
So
has been it has been a the first time our family's been in like crisis mode, I would say. My
yeah.
husband's very much like grounded. He's very much a rock and just like very level-headed, and I feel like trauma just bounces off of him. Like he was in the 93 flood here. Like this is his second natural disaster. Like he's just like, okay, this is what we need to do. Call insurance, do this, do this, do this.
Well,
Um,
yeah, you go through it, and as long as you can get through it the first time, the second time's a lot easier.
Yeah, I don't want to go through it another time. Like I'm done. Universe, can we please stop? But we're very thankful that we got the first thing we did was get a rental house. Like when construction starts, we've been told you're not going to want to be in your house. So we can't be in the front half, but we can be in the back half right now. And so half the family wants to stay in the house because it's our house and it's comforting and all the things. And the other half is like, no, I want to be in the rental house because my room was destroyed and I need to be here. And so that's kind of like, it's only 10 minutes away, but it's a split where like my husband and I aren't sleeping in the same bed then. And so navigating that has been interesting. And I'm trying to be really transparent with all of the people that follow me, whether it's on Insta or Facebook or whatever, and just be like, healers need healing too. It doesn't mean that I can't show up good for my coaching clients. Like that's for me, consistency is super important when you're going through something like this. So knowing like I have a coaching call, I get to help somebody, all of that is very, very helpful for me and it fills my cup. And so for me, it's like, no, I don't want to break. I don't want to take a month off because, like, what is there to do? Sit here and be depressed? No, I want to do my stuff that helps me stay normal. That's what helps, you know?
I get it. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit about burnout, right? Like, how do you stay away from burnout? Because, like, I know just in the general world of people trying to help other people in general, it's so easy to get burnout because you take on everybody else's emotions, trying to help them get rid of the emotion, then you're left with the emotion, right? So, like, how is it that you help yourself with preventing burnout?
So after COVID, I with my sex and intimacy stuff that I was doing at that point, um, I was also part of a company that sold like women's sexual wellness stuff. And I was one of like the top in the company. And we had during COVID, everybody was home and everybody was doing it. So it was like a booming business. It went from being like, I think we were at that point like a $20 million company. We went to being like $100 million company. Like it was insane.
Right.
And so I was just work, 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 work. And I was at that point I hadn't done my healing stuff. So I was hustling and working like crazy because that's what I knew and that was my trauma response. And so when I got COVID in 2020, I got really sick and I got long COVID and I flamed out really bad. Um, I tried to start coming back to the level that I was at prior and I couldn't do it. I physically couldn't do it. I was just like crashing in bed all the time. And so once I finally got back to I would say what I would call a normal state, um, I'm very, very aware of burnout now and I'm
Yeah.
very careful. So I would say watching signs of like you're just starting to feel exhausted all the time. You're feeling like nothing's filling your cup. um, you want to relax, but you feel like you physically can't. Like it almost makes you sick
Yeah.
to relax, but at the same time, your motivation's low and you're procrastinating. And so things that normally would take you this amount of time are now taking you this amount of time, and it's just exacerbating everything. And so I try and do stuff every day somatically that helps clear a lot of that stuff out. So one of the things is I know a lot of people like 115, go away. Go 215, go away. Sorry. Younger one came in and was trying to ask me.
We're almost done, you can tell.
It's okay. So, I know what is portrayed all over social media is that somatics is just movement. And that's not the case. That's one piece of it, but that's not all of it. So there are things like somatic yoga, which I have done and I'm trained in, but the easiest things that people can do are, first of all, paying attention to what your body needs. If your body needs a nap, go take a nap. If your body needs um, like it feels like almost frantic, almost like an anxiety energy. That's a moving energy. So it needs to move out of your body. One of the easiest things you can do is literally just shake your hands, pretend you're like throwing something down at the ground. Throw on, like I love, Grey's Anatomy, they would always have the two of them doing their little dance thing,
Yeah.
playing music and
My
jumping and dancing around.
favorite show.
It's a, it's
Yeah, it makes me do the pose. I learned how to do the Superman pose from.
I love the Superman pose.
Yeah, that's my
Oh.
favorite. She's my favorite part of the show.
And so the wiggling, the shaking, the dancing, anything like that, even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's for 3 minutes, it's such a good thing to do to just move that energy out of your body. And I find that that's also really, really helpful for people who have anxiety because when people are anxious, if somebody's telling them, do breath work, breathe this way, they're telling them to be still. And anxiety is a moving energy. So to feel better with anxiety, you have to shake, you have to move, you have to wiggle. So it's not always about these like pelvic floor movements that you see people doing on social. There's other things that you can do, just wiggling, shaking. And those are huge for children as well. And I wish that they would teach it in schools. I wish that they would do it with little kids because so many times when little kids are getting in trouble because they're moving or they're tapping or they're talking, that's all a moving energy. If you just have them
Right.
shake it out, move, wiggle, dance, run around the room for a minute, if you let them get that energy out, then they can settle. But so I think that's one of the easiest, fastest things that I do. I also really pay attention to my body now because before I had when I wasn't didn't know I needed healing. I was like, oh, I'm just strong and this stuff just bounces off of me. And then my body was like, okay, now you have anxiety, now you have depression, now you don't feel good in your body. And I was like, what the hell's happening? When I started healing, one of the things that I recognized was my whole neck and upper back was locked. I mean, I almost could not move my neck. Like I would be in the car having to like turn my head to like look and see if a car was there, and I almost couldn't turn my head because it was so locked and so sore. And I would get massages and I would go to the chiropractor and all this stuff, and it would go right back to that state. And what I found was when I started healing all this stuff, that all went away. So I haven't had that now for years.
Nice.
And now that it's not there, the second that I feel any of that starting to happen again, I'm aware of it and I'm like, okay, wait, what is coming up? What am I carrying? What am I stressed out about? Like I'm aware of it now. And so I stop it before it gets to that point. I'm not burying it. And that is super important too, I think, for burnout. Your body is telling you it's your body's your warning signal. It's telling you like, pay attention. Listen to me. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think a lot of times the misconception with burnout is you need a vacation, right? Like you always hear people that'll be like, "Oh, you need a vacation," and I'm like, I go fishing a lot, right? So like, I'm like, yeah, have you ever been stressed out trying to fish? It's even worse, like that. Sometimes that's not always the best answer either. So I
And
agree.
people can't relax. Like
No, 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 no,
if
not
you're
at
on
all.
vacation, that's 1 week, but you're trying to help your nervous system, which has been in a survival state for potentially decades.
Yeah,
1 week off is not going to fix that. But I also think people think they have to do years or decades in therapy, and I find that if they're doing therapy without the somatic piece, it'll help a little. But if they add the somatics, it's going to amplify and it's going to move them so much faster. And so learning the tools for what your nervous system looks like so you can identify when you're in these different phases, and then also have the tools for what to do when you're in those different things, like that's key. Because life is always going to be lifing. There's always going to be more shit that comes up. And so when you have those tools, how can you utilize them when those come up? And that's a big piece of healing, is being able to recognize that and utilize that and incorporate that in and not feel like I immediately need therapy because, oh my gosh, this one event happened. I
right.
can help myself because I have learned this.
Well, you've done a very good job explaining uh, your stuff here. So let me ask you this, right? So the listener, if they want to get set up with you, right? They want to get into your program because you have a program, right? I wrote it down somewhere, and forgive me, my
Yeah, I
this
have.
whole thing is a mess in here, but it was like, what was it?
Pulse.
Pause,
Uh-huh. Pulse.
pulse,
Yeah.
right? Pulse, right? So that's your program. What does that stand for?
It doesn't stand for anything. It's pulse
Okay.
because of like when you are anxious or your nervous system's messed up, like it affects your heartbeat. It affects your heart rate. It affects how you breathe. And so I picked pulse because of that.
Okay.
Um, so that's a
So if I want to
12
get set
week.
up with your program, right? Where do I
Yep.
go? How do I do it? And what's the process?
Okay, so Pulse is a 12-week program and it's super effective, and that people can find on my website, which is healwithjulia.com. People can also find me on Instagram, which is at healwithjulia. But on my website, it also has a range of things for people who just want to start feeling better immediately and don't want to spend a lot of money. It's got the nervous system reset I talked about. It's got something called Embodied Power, which has a breathwork journey. And then it's got healing sessions. So if people want to do the one-off healing sessions, like those are all options, and then it all leads to Pulse. So there's lots of different ways that people can utilize. Some are one-on-one, some are on their own, but that are different price ranges and also give people huge results. no matter what level they want to pick.
Okay. Nice. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Um, Anything else you want to add?
No, I think
You've done a really good job. I appreciate you coming on because you answered like all my questions without me having to ask any questions.
no.
So
I
I
feel like I talk too much.
no, I like that, right? Because like especially on this season, like I'm not an expert. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what you know. So like it's a lot easier to just have you explain like your stuff, right? Because I'm not the expert in it, you are, right? So I appreciate you answering all the questions before we even have to ask them, right? Um, so that's really good. So for the people that's listening, right? You guys could have been anywhere in the world today. You sat here and chose to be with us for this 48 minutes. And I appreciate you guys for listening. Hopefully you got something. Make sure you check out her website. If you're more interested, if you have more interest in her style of therapy, please check that out. We'll put the links in the description, so it'll be down there for everybody. And if you didn't get anything from this, there's a million things on YouTube. There's at least 5 million podcasts out there, so go find another one. We don't care how you get help as long as you get it. That's all we care about over here. I appreciate you for listening. Thanks for joining. All the fun stuff like share, subscribe, all that stuff. So, all right, thank you.